Opening slide, graphic, text, Safeguarding the Future, Part 4. What really keeps people safe? With Jeremy Ward. Logos, Belonging Matters, NDIS, talksthatmatter.net.
So, what I've talked about so far is importance of thinking about the future, remembering the future starts now, the importance of developing a vision, the importance of doing some planning to implement that vision, and what I'm now going to do is talk about what keeps people safe. Because, it's the big question. It comes back to that original sort of question that I threw out at everybody. And what I'm suggesting is that it's other people who keep people safe. People as ordinary people acting as ordinary people. So it's not services. Services have to run their services safely. They have a responsibility to do what they do in a safe manner, but they're not there to keep your son or daughter or brother or sister or, person in your life with a disability safe. In all aspects of their life, I mean. And funding packages won't keep people safe either. They can assist with providing support, obviously, and that can contribute to people's vulnerabilities in certain circumstances being minimised, but as such, funding packages don't keep people safe, and nor do governments. We only have to look at the response of governments in particular situations, and I don't need to dwell on what's happening in the aged care area to see that governments struggle to keep people safe. And it's not wills and trusts and other legal structures and mechanisms, as important as they are. If you have to set up a trust, as you'll hear those of you coming to the webinar next week, the important issue is who you're going to appoint as trustees. So it always comes back to people acting as ordinary citizens, ordinary people. So if people keep people safe, it really follows that we need to give some very, very close attention to developing networks of people around our family members or around ourselves if we're able to do that. And it's really, I'd just like to talk briefly about the idea of planning as a way of thinking and intentional cups of coffee. So let's, for example, say that when my daughter was with us, she loved people, she loved coffee, and so a lot of her downtime life, not when she was at work and so forth, was spent meeting people in coffee shops. She didn't like nature. She was a big city girl. But if someone came up to her in the street or in a supermarket and said, "Look, hi, Mina, I remember you from school. I've been out of town. I'm just back having been sort of down south at uni or something, and I'd like to, say it's terrific to see you. And it'd be great to catch up for a coffee sometime." So instead of leaving it at that, Mina, if she had the capacity, sometimes she did, sometimes not so clearly, and the people with her or the person with her then makes the sort of decision to say, "All right, let's do it. Can we have your phone number? Or can we make a time now?" And so you actually take clear steps to meet and not just leave it up to chance, and not just leave it up to that person making further contact. Because part of your planning may be, as it probably always should be, we want to be doing things to develop more and more people around the person with disability. So planning is a way of thinking. You think about these opportunities, not just let them go by. And you plan to include people in as many typical activities as possible. So, local activities. So not, as I said before, segregated or congregated or so-called special groups. We want to find people who will remain committed in the long term. So that's why you want people who, are there because they want to be there, not because they're in a paid role. And I'm sure that many of you have experienced support workers who've developed very, very close relationships with your family member with a disability, and if you're a person with a disability, I'm sure you've made close connections with people, but it's important to separate out a paid role from a non-paid role, and it's certainly the case that many people end up with long-term friends who started in their lives because they came into their lives in a paid role, and that certainly happened in Mina's case. But it's, you can't assume that, so we need to be making available as many opportunities as possible for people to meet new people in their community, in their local community. One strategy is to develop a support circle, and Deb mentioned at the outset that they've been doing a lot of work around support circles and facilitating support circles. But I'll just talk very briefly about support circles today, but certainly in our case, it was very, very important. And Mina had 3 different sorts of support circles in her life. Firstly, there was one that we started when she was about 10, when my wife Margaret and I wanted to get her into a regular school, and she had multiple disabilities, and so that was a bit of a challenge even in primary school level. And we gathered together a group of people, and it was a support circle around advocacy. Then, and we achieved that within about 8 months of very, very intense work and meetings every fortnight. When Mina was a late teenager, around 1920, we organised a group of young women to come together with her to help, develop her social life, her connections with other young people. And then a few years later, we were thinking much more seriously about long-term safeguarding, and we developed a further circle which had the primary purpose of safety and security. And and there were people that were in each. Some people were in all of these circles. Some people in the first circle and then the third circle. But it was the third circle that was all about long-term safety and security. So support circles, I think, can have different goals, if you like. What I'm talking about is a support circle that's there with its primary purpose to keep the individual safe and secure in the long term.
Graphic, image, book cover, The Shouted Goodbye by Jeremy Ward. Text. For more detail about topics discussed by Jeremy, purchase his book at www.belongingmatters.org. Closing slide, graphic, text. This video was made possible with the support of a National Disability Insurance Agency grant. Produced by Belonging Matters. Belonging Matters makes every effort to provide accurate and up-to-date material. However, information is subject to change and our material is for reference only. In regard to wills and trusts, we recommend speaking to a legal advisor in your state. Logos, NDIS, Belonging Matters, talksthatmatter.net.